From Among the Missing to UFO talk, it's time for little Timmy Seanor and the UFO Report.
Nobody's going to know.
They're going to know.
Tim Seanor, how you doing, buddy?
Doing really well. Thanks for asking. Excited for the UFO report tonight. Got our special guest. Looking forward to it.
Me too, my man. Me too. You know, it's usually you come in, we talk about a bunch of UFO stories that have happened, but the main story that happened earlier today was the Good Trouble Show on YouTube, which is a great friend of Spaced Out Radio. Matt Ford, their host, is one of the best newcomers in this field when it comes to really getting to the governmental and the heart of the UFO story here. He had a great interview earlier on today with Senator Gillibrand. And I talked to Matt last week, as him and I talk a couple times a week, and he's really one of the great down-to-earth guys on this. And I asked him, I said, would you come join Tim and I on the show to talk about this interview? He was like, absolutely. So Tim, I'm going to bring in Matt here. And Matt Ford, congratulations on your interview earlier today with Senator Gillibrand. Really hard work. I know you put that together. It took a while. So let's get into it for the next 45 minutes or so, because I think this was one of the most important talks that's happened in a long time between ufology and those of us in it, and getting the voice to the government, which is Senator Gillibrand. Thank you so much. How did this happen?
Well, actually, let me jump in first. You have an amazing beard. Every time I see you on Spaced Out Radio, last time I was here, I attempted to grow a beard. It was sort of a half-hearted attempt, but so clearly I gave up on it. But love the beard. This was something we have been a fan of. Exactly, we've been a fan of her efforts on many things politically, but especially on this particular topic. This is, I would say, a very, obviously because of the associated stigma, this has been sort of the third rail that I think probably most politicians never wanted to touch. So my hat has really gone off to her, Marco Rubio, and others, but in particular Senator Gillibrand, because she has really championed this topic. And I think that we, as a nation and as a human species, should be very very grateful for what she is currently up to, and I think the things that will be coming hopefully soon.
I want to ask you about how this all came together, because politicians usually don't meet with YouTubers, podcasters, so on and so forth, unless, it has something to do with maybe an electoral year or something along those lines. How did you get this interview to come together?
I've been in touch with her office I would say for well over a year. So your audience, I think, knows me primarily on the UAP topic, but we primarily have been a producer of political ads, advocating for the Democratic Party. We do a lot of political commentary that is on the left side of the aisle, and for instance, during the 2020 election, we were, I would say, probably the third or fourth largest producer of political ads for Twitter and social media, advocating for the Democratic Party. So with that, and on our main website, or sorry, not main website, our main account, Stand for Better, we're over 80,000 followers, I think, somewhere around that neighborhood. And I would say with the 100 or so of various videos that we produced, we were probably at least 15, 20 unique video views just on Twitter alone. So with that, we have developed relationships with people in the political world, obviously, on the Democratic side. We don't really have that on the Republican side, but and we hope to grow that because we strongly feel that the UAP topic transcends party, and we are even though we advocate for Democrats, we are very vocal in supporting the things that the Republican Party members of the Republican Party are doing for this particular topic. So it just kind of organically grew through introductions to various people and developing a relationship that took some time. These things, they don't happen overnight, and unless you're a CNN or a 60 Minutes where you can just pick up the phone. These relationships, they take a long time to develop.
So in that year, how did it develop to get this interview? Because she has not done any interviews with anybody really specifically on this topic outside of mainstream media. Us being an alternative, that's a little bit of a different sort for her. So how did that come together?
Through a lot of emails back and forth. It's some of it you give these folks, you reach out to them and then you give them some room to breathe or to think about it, or they'll say, hey, let's revisit this in a month or so. And I'm sure some of it too just is reliant upon their schedule and also timing for them as well. For instance, I think probably for her, the timing worked out well from the perspective of just having had that the hearing that she chaired in the was it the subcommittee for emerging threats and something else. I always forget the second word. But yeah, it's essentially been a long process of emailing back and forth and trying to find a date that worked for everyone.
How do you feel about it? I mean, you had her for only 18 minutes. I mean, that isn't a lot of time to drop the gloves and ask some serious pertinent questions. How did you fit it all in?
It was tough. We told them ahead of time of certain subjects that we wanted to touch on, and the subjects that the questions we wanted to touch on were things that we knew or felt confident that she would be able to answer. In other words, for us to go to her and say, we're going to talk about where non-human intelligence is, what lab it's sitting in, or where the saucers are stashed. That's not a road that they are going to go down. So when we structured what we wanted to ask about, we chose subjects that we felt that we could ask her and that she would be able to speak about without having a lot of I can't comment or anything of that sort. Actually, I kind of forgot your question. Sorry. I go to bed usually around 9, so it's a bit past my bedtime, and I'm a little so sorry. So ask that again if you don't mind.
Well, just in regards when putting this interview together, how it came about. I mean, was she comfortable to talk to in that 18 minutes?
Oh, yes. Sorry, she was very comfortable. So we actually had 15 minutes of time allotted. We chatted on air for 18, and then we probably chatted off air, off the record, for about 10. Which of course that's the stuff I wish I could go into, but I can't. So it was she was lovely, very relaxed, felt very comfortable, I think, with the topic. I don't think that I threw anything that was a curveball. I think it was very straightforward. I think that the last question that I asked about whether the people that have been hiding all of this, the gatekeeper, so to speak. My last question was whether those folks deserved amnesty or should be given amnesty to come forward. And that one she didn't. I don't think she really wanted to answer. So she really, in my personal opinion. So I think it was more. Her answer was more focused back on the whistleblower protection. But overall, yeah, I thought it was a great experience. She was fantastic. Her staff is fantastic. And another thing that I want to bring up, a common thing that you'll hear from people like Mick West, is that these staffers, they've kind of just snowed over their bosses. They just, they're all UFO enthusiasts or whatever you want to call them. And that is the only reason that the senators and congressmen have pursued this from a legislative point of view. And that is just absolutely ridiculous. I can tell you from conversations with her staff in particular, they are very dialed into this topic. They care about it. They understand the national security implications of this. These are very, very smart people that have clearances, and they are not by any stretch of the imagination going to, send their senator or congressman down some rabbit hole for who knows why without good reason.
I know what it's like to deal with people in the Canadian government regarding this, and there are a number of talks that happen behind the scenes that are trying to put projects together, and they're talking to officials in Canada, in the United States, in Great Britain, trying to get a focus on what's going on. I would say the difference between Canadian politics and American politics regarding this subject is, in Canada, we really aren't taking this subject as a threat narrative. Whereas in the United States, the UFO topic, which is more the UAP topic, is taken very seriously about what's going on in American airspace. I mean, I know with the Canadian side, they want to know the science behind everything. Whereas on the American side, it's more about defense. I mean, do you feel that there was enough constructive chatter going on regarding the potential of the science of everything rather than the defensive measures?
That's a really good question. I have personally been very skeptical of Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick, who is the director of Aero. I understand he's a scientist, but I think in that particular program, you don't need a scientist running it. Certainly science is an important part of it, but I think in terms of a program director, I think you need someone that is not solely focused on that aspect of it. I do believe that all of this is a significant national security concern. That's my personal opinion, but I think that a lot of anecdotal sort of evidence, or whatever you want to call it, I think points in that direction. I could be wrong, but I think anything operating in our airspace, anything operating in our restricted airspace or in our training ranges, that is a significant concern. I do have one thought. Heard this a question on our chat earlier was why there seemed to be so much focus on the balloons and all of that. And I have no direct knowledge of this. This is just my personal opinion. But I think from a political point of view, there's been so much stigma for so many decades that these politicians that are really advocating trying to treat this topic seriously, the way of presenting this as a national security issue is a good mechanism to get other people on board. So if you're emphasizing the balloons, the drones, possible Russia technology, Chinese technology, and you take everyone in that direction, and you're still lumping in UAP as far as a non-prosaic thing into that bucket, naturally they're going to end up having to look into that other bucket. So I think that probably a lot of the language that you hear from Senator Gillibrand, Senator Rubio, and others, while at the surface level, it seems like it's all about balloons, all about drones, I think that it's playing a larger game to make sure that the Aero office is funded, that this whole effort is funded to get to the bottom of it.
And Tim, I apologize for not bringing you in just yet, but I want to ask, Well, one more question here. So we got about 3.5 minutes before we go to break here. Uh, to me, it signifies what I've been saying on this show, Matt, that there is a real difference between UAP and UFOs. We heard a lot about it in your conversation with Senator Gillibrand today, as you just mentioned, about Russia, China, drones, balloons, everything like that. Is there, from your point of view, after talking to her, a big difference? Because for our audience, we don't really care about the balloons. We don't care about the drones. We don't care about Russia and China. We want some damn aliens, man. We
Right.
bring on them aliens. And I say that facetiously, but that's the truth about it. That's why I'm really starting to learn that there is a huge difference between UAP and UFOs. I may be in the minority with a lot of people in ufology, but in your conversation with her, where do you stand on that?
You and I have spoken on this on the phone, just socially. I personally, I think that for those of us that have been tracking this topic and understand it as much as we can to a great depth, it's easy for us to discern the sort of nuances. But politicians that may not have been tracking this subject, or just anyone else that has not been tracking this subject, whenever you say UFO, you immediately, if you say it to anybody on the street, 9 times out of 10, that response is going to mean, oh, do you mean little green men? Do you mean Martians? That is the automatic response. So if you're talking to somebody like that does not understand this topic, has not read into it, and they immediately go to what in their mind is ridiculousness, you're never going to get past that point. They put in that block. Versus if you say UAP, most people at this stage do not understand it. So I personally don't have a problem with if it's a mechanism to get people to pay attention to this topic and to take it seriously without stigma, I'm all for it.
I love it. 90 seconds to go here. I want to get one more in. Yeah, Tim, I'm sorry, buddy. I'm sorry. You can quickly.
Tim's giving the thumbs up, though.
Tim, you can quickly speak here if you want. But Matt, there's going to be some, with an interview like this, there's going to be some flack, some criticism that maybe you didn't ask her the hard questions. I get it on this show too, because everybody wants that aha gotcha moment, that piece of audio that just absolutely, stuns people. You're not going to get that from a politician. You're not going to get that. And it's really in the way you ask the question, because you don't have to hammer home to make somebody uncomfortable. What do you say to the people who are going to listen to this 15 minutes? And we encourage everybody to go to your channel to watch it. Give me a 30-second answer on that.
Yeah, it's easy. These folks, they're not going to get in front of, what's the saying? They're not going to get ahead of something that they're not supposed to. In other words, if Senator Gillibrand isn't going to come out and say, oh, yeah, we've got aliens or whatever stuffed in some closet, and get in front of maybe something that the White House is in front of. They are very careful about their messaging, and it's understandable. I think things have to be rolled out in a very specific order. That's my personal opinion. No one has ever told me that, but I think that's what we have to do.
Awesome. Matt Ford is joining us on a special edition of the UFO Report with little Timmy Seanor. Yes, I promise, Tim will talk in the next hour. Spaced Out Radio continues with the UFO Report right after this.
Hi, Tim. How are you?
Matt, welcome to Spaced Out Radio, buddy.
Thank you. I'm very, very glad to be here. So I'm a little out of it tonight. It's been a very, very long day, but I'm very, very glad to be here. And yeah, Tim, definitely. I can kind of ramble on, and especially if I forget the question, I'll just ramble. So yeah, feel free to jump in, or Dave, however you want to do it. But
that's great.
Super glad to be here, and super glad for the really great friendship between Dave and I and Spaced Out Radio. Dave's really been a good friend and offered so much great advice. And yeah, Yeah. As I told Dave, Spaced Out Radio was the very first podcast I ever listened to, and also very obviously very first podcast I ever listened to on the UAP topic. So I never dreamt that I would be on this show, to be honest. So
That's
yeah.
great. That's great.
Tim never compliments me like that. Thank you.
I think Dave knows. I
I'm
think,
teasing.
yeah.
Oh, my condolences to your Canadian musician that just passed.
Yes, Gordon Lightfoot. He
Yeah.
went sundown.
That yeah, boy, that his stuff always totally brought me back to my childhood in the 70s. My parents were always listening to that.
You know what? This is what sucks about YouTube. I would love to play some Gordon Lightfoot tonight.
Right. Yeah.
You know, whether it's like my favorite song by him is Sundown.
Oh yeah. Oh,
And-
beautiful song.
And you know, or The Wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald. I would love to play some of those songs, and all because of, you know, and I understand the copyright infringement. I
Right.
get that, but it's frustrating, you know,
Right.
because I would love to play something like that.
Yeah. I get it. I totally
Apparently, the song "Sundown" was it's one of the stories behind it was he got sick and tired of people coming up to him because he lived on an island right by Vancouver Island, and he got sick of people coming up to him and while he was smoking a joint and trying to, you know, talk to him, and, you know, while he's sitting on his patio, and he got frustrated by it.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah, what a great musician and songwriter. Amazing. Tim, where are you located?
I am currently in Oregon.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah.
Excellent. Excellent.
Yep.
I
Right.
love
Right here. Actually, we are very close to the Trent property where one of the very first UFO photographs was ever taken.
Wow, that's
So-
cool.
Yeah, it is really cool out here. We've got a pretty deep history of UFOs out here. So, and Sasquatch, I suppose, but I have never seen a Sasquatch.
Yeah, that's love. Yeah, I've never seen a Sasquatch. I've had
What about a
orbs.
UFO?
Oh yeah, no, say that again.
Have you seen a UFO?
Oh yeah, five times they've appeared at my home. As soon as I started interviewing Robert Hastings, that's when they appeared. So the last one was about 5 weeks ago. So they're orbs. I've never had a solid craft show up, but they've come as low as about 200 feet above my house. But he has to drink before briefings. Yeah. Okay. Great. Yeah. Hey, it'll be a really great press briefing. But yeah, that's
Where are you located?
I'm in Los Angeles.
Okay.
But yeah,
wow.
prior to ever.
Go ahead quickly.
Oh no, just to say, prior to looking into the UFO topic, I'd never seen a thing my entire life, and I'm 54.
Wow.
Hold on. 1, 2. Okay. Thank you to the super chatters tonight. Random guy with 11 of them.
What?
Louis, Mike with 2, Deb Picks, Little Timmy Seanor, Lucy Bell, and who else? W. Decker, thank you. Strange Highness, good to see. Thank you. And Derek. Also, just quickly here regarding the change of Swamp Dweller. The reason why I made the change was Swamp Dweller's a busy guy, and we were advertising his channel for over a year. And I talked to Steve Stockton from Among the Missing, and Steve and I worked out a deal where Steve is going to end every one of his videos with pushing people to Spaced Out Radio, and we're going to be in return for this. So it's just an equal fit for everyone. So here we go.
Very nice.
We rounded third. We're heading for home tonight on Spaced Out Radio. My name is Dave Scott. Very much appreciate earning your listening ears. Want to remind you that if you've missed most of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the Newswire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. UFO Report with Tim Seanor is continuing right now. Our resident Timbit will get some words in this half hour with our special guest, Matt Ford, from the Good Trouble Show on YouTube. Make sure you go hit subscribe and ring that bell for him after his great interview earlier today with Senator Gillibrand regarding UFOs. Tim, I know you got a bunch of questions that you want to ask Matt, so fire away, man.
Thank you. Thank you.
Go for it.
Matt, welcome to Spaced Out Radio. Thank you so much for joining us for the UFO Report. And also thank you for paving the road in ufology for the bipartisan issue that we kind of all share here in UAP UFO. So I think you're doing a fantastic job covering it. And so keep up the good work there. I had a couple of really cool takeaways, and I thought this was a great interview.
Thank you.
One of the big takeaways that I got, and I haven't heard anyone really bring it up, and I kind of thought it was a big deal, was that she kind of inadvertently brought up the fact that she was coming in contact with some bottlenecks in some of the work that she's doing. She's finding a bottleneck, quote unquote. And I was wondering, in your opinion, what do you think she was referring to when she said that?
Oh, I think a couple of things. I think she was referring to the bottleneck in funding for AARO. All of this was congressionally mandated that this particular office be funded, and it wasn't for quite a while. And clearly, the Office of Undersecretary of Defense for Intelligence and Security, I personally think was probably behind a good bit of that. That office that is led by Ronald Moultrie, that is the office that has been the most engaged in sort of obfuscating this whole subject. So I think that's one thing. Another thing that I think that she was referring to was the fact that there is no front-facing mechanism for people to communicate with AARO. So the whistleblowers, they've all testified to AARO through going through a senator's office. AARO has no website. AARO has no published phone number. AARO has none of this. So there is no front-facing communications plan that they have. And in particular, in the hearing that she held, she asked about that. She asked Director Sean Kirkpatrick, "Where is the website?" And he said that he had submitted it to OUSDINS, and it was still sitting there. I think those were probably the two big things, but also as well, which wasn't the letter that was just recently sent to Director Avril Haines, and to SecDef Lloyd Austin. One of the other things that was mentioned in there was that they were asking, as is mandated in this legislation, that whistleblower testimony or information be reported back to Congress. And the wording in that letter indicated to me that that was not occurring. So from my view, I think those were the things that she was speaking about.
Yeah. And you brought up the fact that there was no public facing mechanism for reporting, but she did kind of hint that that was something that she was very good at putting together and had really been planning to do. So I thought that was another really great takeaway from the conversation. Another insinuation I felt perhaps had been made, and maybe you can agree or disagree with this, that the orb video that was shared during the DoD release perhaps was an Iranian drone. And I don't know if that came across in the conversation to you, but was that something that you felt was kind of made as an insinuation by your conversation?
I would have to go back and read the transcript again. That didn't stick out to me. Maybe it was something I just happened to miss. But I don't think so.
Okay.
But I have to say I'll have to go back and listen to it to see if it was something I just didn't pick up on.
Totally understood. And I also understand why you're not able to come at her with very direct questions on things that obviously she wouldn't be able to answer on. We'd all love to know more about obviously non-human intelligences and where they stand. But I'm wondering, do you think, in your opinion, after your conversation with her, and perhaps even with your confidential behind the scenes conversation, would you, in your opinion, say that she feels that confirmation of non-human intelligence is somewhere in our future?
I do not know. But personally, I think from what sources have told me that it is around the corner. So what I would say is Senator Gillibrand and her staff are some of the smartest people I've come across. As most of these folks are that way, that managed to get this far in politics. I would be very surprised if she didn't feel that way, but I have no information that would confirm or deny that. But I think in general, especially listening to your last guest, Ron James, a lot of what he had to say really rang true. These folks know. They know that. I mean, yes, there are drones. Yes, there are various mechanisms of surveillance that countries that are not friendly to us are using and implementing. I think some of it obviously is flown below the radar, so to speak, with these drone. with the balloons. But I'm telling you, these people know. And I mentioned this in the post interview analysis with Chris Sharp and Vinnie Adams of Disclosure Team. You really have to read between the lines. For instance, if you listen to Marco Rubio speak about this subject, he'll talk about drone, and then other. It's like at the very end. When you hear keywords like other or we need to know about if Russia or China or Iran has some technology or maybe something else, it's that something else. I think that's what you'll find they're referring to. The something else is not made by human hands.
Right. And before I toss it back over to Dave, my final thing was what she said kind of in the beginning of the interview, that we're still seeing that the military is propagating the stigma and that people are still having a hard time wrapping their head around the conversations that need to take place with the whistleblowers and bringing this to the public. Can you kind of maybe bring another aspect of that to our audience?
I'm not quite.
So she was referring to the fact that the military is still coming. It's still kind of making it hard for whistleblowers to come forward by making it so stigmatized. Still, they're still not really considering it something that they want their people to come forward and talk about. And so I'm wondering, is she kind of insinuating that we need to change things kind of in the conversation there? Or is it something that she's trying to work in as far as perhaps getting things declassified at a certain level so it's easier to talk about? What do you think that conversation was really about?
Well, I think for one of the things that she encouraged was whistleblowers to come forward to her office to talk about their experiences. What I can tell you is post Kirkpatrick hearing, that really was a punch in the gut to many of these whistleblowers. He very much seemed to blow them off. and just in my view, sort of had a seemingly arrogant opinion about it. And everything that I've been told from various whistleblowers is they were very, very disappointed and very put off by it, and sort of discouraged to come forward. Now, I'm hoping with her statement about talk to her. She has more legal authority, and the committees have more legal authority at this moment than the Arrow office. So if you are a whistleblower and you have very specific information to share, there were some mechanisms shared with me off the record on what needs to be relayed to them for them to get their information forward, and it's not to Arrow. And I will be reaching out to some folks to disseminate that information. So I think that perhaps maybe she understands, and I don't want to put words in her mouth, but I'm guessing perhaps she understands that there's a need to have a different mechanism to bring this information for her. It is clear that the DOD is doing everything that they can to try and bury this, try and put this toothpaste back in the tube. Personally, I think a lot of it is probably for legal reasons. I can tell you without a doubt that the things that I'm aware of in terms of retaliation against whistleblowers, a lot of people are going to end up in jail. Period. The end.
Really?
And 100%. So
Matt, I got to cut you off right there. That's a pretty strong statement.
Yeah, and I you can take that to the bank. So if what comes out about the retaliation that has taken place against these whistleblowers, I guarantee you there are going to be some serious legal ramifications. So with that in mind, you have to look at it from somebody that has gone to these measures of administrative terrorism and other things. There's a strong legal reason, incentive on their part to keep this whole thing buried. And there are men and women that have served this country have made tremendous sacrifices to serve this country, but also things that they have done to go forward or to come forward with their whistleblowing information. It's to no positive. It's almost to their detriment. They're sticking their necks out on the line, and my heart goes out to these guys. They need to be respected. They need to be listened to. And I understand there's certainly a case for anecdotal evidence. If there's not radar data or maybe something that can back them up or back up their particular thing, that does make it challenging. But when you have several former U.S. Air Force nuclear launch control officers or above ground nuclear personnel going and testifying to not to Sean Kirkpatrick, but to one of his staff, and that is maybe not getting up to Congress, that's wrong.
Very understandable. Tim, thank you for some great questions there.
Yes, thank you, Tim.
I want to ask you regarding the governmental side, and I know this really wasn't spoken of. This was more of a political type talk, but do you get the sense that Senator Gillibrand does understand the public or the UFO community's love of this subject and wanting to know about this subject because it's so unique or because of the experiences people have?
I think it's more because of the experiences that they have. The very first question I asked is what got her interested in this topic, or why she was championing it. And the thing that she explained is for a very long period of time, she has had people in the military, pilots, other people in that have worn our uniform, that have gone to her and said, this is what I experienced. I experienced X during this flight, and I can tell you it wasn't a balloon or a drone or a seagull. and what she explained that she found was so many of these folks experienced retaliation by the DoD, either in and she didn't specifically enumerate it, but things about probably costing people their flight status, their career, their maybe their clearance, and she just said this is not acceptable. These people are merely reporting data, and then the DoD is retaliating against them in an illegal way.
I understand that, but did you ever, in your conversations with her, even privately, and I know that's going to stay private, but does she care about the UFO community or the sightings and experiences people are having? Is she understanding or cognizant, in your opinion, that people are getting abducted? People are having strange experiences happen.
We never got into anything like that. I think the lens that she looks at it in particular is really the national security lens, and that this is not a topic. I believe that she clearly understands that the Pentagon has not been wanting to look at this, and I would venture to guess that it's not dealing with balloons and drones or seagulls or whatever. She's a very, very smart lady, and her staff is very, very smart. And as far as caring about the UFO community, I do think so. She mentioned that she had people that after her hearing come up and tell their stories. I don't think that she has any. I would venture to guess she does not have any skepticism of these stories. I think she's probably a very open-minded, and she certainly is a very smart individual.
Do you plan on having more conversations with her?
I hope so. I certainly hope so. I think that things will continue to develop in a very positive way with this subject, and our hope is certainly to have other political people from Washington come on our show to speak about it, particularly on the other side of the aisle, because I think that it's important that we acknowledge the efforts that they are, the fact that they're sticking their neck out on the line politically on this. It's a risky topic for any politician. It is a third rail, but I do think that stigma is rapidly decreasing, and the more that it's spoken about in a very logical way, and I think looking at it from the national security lens also allows more people to be able to open their mind to obviously the prosaic stuff, but also the non-prosaic stuff.
In your opinion, after this conversation with her, do you feel, and this is a Matt Ford opinion, not a Senator Gillibrand opinion, do you feel that she is taking on the weight of the military-industrial complex for having the stance that she does regarding UFOs?
I think she is. I think that her and others, but in particular Senator Gillibrand, it is a level of courage that no other politician has wanted to really go after this particular topic. I mean, you think about standing up to the military industrial complex, or however you want to classify these gatekeepers or non-governmental organizations that have been managing this, and deciding for themselves that we as a species do not need to know about that. That was one thing that she said, was that it is not their place to judge. And she is 100% right. So my hat is off to her. I think her bravery on this topic, and realizing, I would say, in my personal opinion, that this is something that we as a country, and certainly as a species, we deserve to know what is going on.
Tim, we got about a minute and a half here. You got any final questions?
I do. Do you feel, in your opinion, after your discussion, that the focus is on really like the balloon topic and UAP being something mundane, the orbs, quote unquote, being drones and things like that? Or do you feel like the real interest is in the UFO topic? And, or again, I guess this is another option. Do you think this is all about funding? And this is your opinion after your discussion.
Well, I think that funding is essential. You can't have a program without funding. But my personal opinion is that I think this is obviously the military needs to pay attention to the prosaic stuff. But I think at the end of the day, this is about the non-prosaic.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Awesome. Matt Ford from the Good Trouble Show, thank you so much for coming on Spaced Out Radio and breaking it all down for us.
Anytime.
It was a lot of fun and great work on your interview with Senator Gillibrand. And I encourage all of our audience, whether you're in radio land, YouTube land, podcast land, to head on over to Matt's channel at the Good Trouble Show. Hit subscribe while you're there. Ring that bell. And Tim, thank you so much for your great questions tonight on the UFO Report. Hey, we didn't have to plan anything tonight, man. Matt made it for us.
It's a lot of fun.
It was fun. I'm glad to come on. I forgot who was suggesting that I run for, or that I offer my services to whatever administration is, to be their press secretary, as long as I can have some grape juice while I'm doing it.
That's right. Mr. Ron Bumblefoot THAL rocking in the background with Little Brother is Watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Special thanks to everybody listening in at work, at home, in your cars, wherever you may be. Thank you to everyone in our chat rooms tonight. YouTube, Twitch, LGAB, Facebook, Spreaker, the Space Travelers Club, LinkedIn, and on Twitter, hashtag Spaced Out Radio. I know you're out there somewhere. Remember, this show is copyright by Spaced Out Radio and SOR Media Ventures Limited. Thank you so much for choosing to share your evening with us, because together, my friends, we're watching. We own the night. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home. I know you're out there somewhere watching me. Yes, the Woo train has docked for the night. But soon, my friends, we shall ride again. Your seats are always available. Your tickets never expire. And if you want to bring a friend, we've got room for them too. Good night.